I'm obviously the Red Bull 2 guy, so I got to start you with the Austin game. A lot of people are surprised. I'm not one of them, but I'm curious your thoughts going into that game versus the way it went, of the expectations you had for all the young kids, the Edelmans and the Gomas, the Caden Clarks, of how they perform, and then what you saw.
Yeah, a lot of us on the team, we see those guys every day in practice. They do well. They do tremendous in practice, and I think them finally getting the opportunity down in Austin with a great environment, great atmosphere. I think they played tremendously, as we all saw, with Serge scoring, Caden playing well, Edelman playing big minutes, and I think we kind of made a statement that we have a deep team, we have a young team, and they brought the energy, and it was a great win, like you said.
As you were going into the week, though, and you learn who's playing, who was the one that you were like, I really want this kid to get their shot, and I know that they can take it? Who are you excited to sort of see out there?
I think Serge and Dan Edelman. I mean, Serge unfortunately got the injury, but you could see how athletic and how great he is for just being a 16-year-old. So he had a tremendous opportunity there. Unfortunately, went down with an injury. And Edelman just proven himself through the ranks through USL over the last year or so, and he played very well. I think at the end of the game, he gave it his all, and he looked kind of dead at the end of the game, but he played very well.
You, Aaron, and Carlos sort of felt like the veteran core with this whole sort of changeover in this group. What was that responsibility like for you on Sunday?
Yeah, I think all of us have to kind of add a vocal leadership role and kind of improve in that aspect. And I think we all have to take on a bigger role in regards to just showing these young guys how to kind of manage the game when it gets tough in stressful environments like that with a big crowd, a lot going on. And I think these young guys handle it well, and kudos to them. They did great out there, and I think they'll only continue to improve.
When did it feel like for you things shifted from the young guy figuring it out to now a veteran that can sort of guide other players along?
I think towards the end of last year when we were trying to make that run towards the playoffs, then we had a good stretch of games. I think I kind of had to bolster the back line and kind of improve myself in regards to being a vocal leader and just being a leader on the field. And I think the club has done a great job in growing players, including myself, Aaron, and a bunch of other guys who came through the USL system. So it's a testament to the club and a testament to the coaching staff to get us all ready for these games.
You mentioned that run last year. One of the big things for this team was the shift from a back four to a back five or a back three, whatever you want to call it. As a center back yourself, which do you prefer to play in?
Honestly, I don't mind. I mean, the first year I was playing USL, and the second year I didn't really play. So to me, as long as I'm on the field, I don't mind. I love just playing in these games.
That is a very fair response. Let's talk about the big game that's coming up. How do you transition from the league and what you're focused on to now a semifinal, arguably the biggest game of the season, just 3 days later down in Orlando?
Yeah, these Open Cups are always do or die, and I think there's a lot of pressure on these games, but that's good for the players. I mean, you grow because of them, and I think last game was a huge one against NYC, and I think this one will be even bigger against Orlando. We know they have a lot of great talent up top, and I think we have to kind of bring it, especially coming off a tough Austin game that we kind of have to mentally recharge, refocus, and get ready to bring our best.
Does the build up so far feel different than the quarterfinals against NYCFC?
Yeah, it feels a little different, but the pressure I think is the same because it's a semifinal. You have the chance to go to a final, and you don't have that so often in your career. And I think a lot of guys here, even though it's a young team, they realize that the pressure is real, and we have to perform tonight.
The last time you were down in Orlando was a 3-0 win. It was one of the best performances of the season. What went right that day, and what are you guys talking about to bring over into this game?
Yeah, I think that day we kind of succeeded on all facets of the game. We scored on a penalty, a build-up play, and then a transition moment. And I think if we could bring that today again, I think we'll have a lot of confidence and success. But as I said, Orlando's a great team, so we have to kind of go out and execute. We can't think we're going to win right away. So it's going to be a good one.
You mentioned the goal scoring on this team, the attacking pieces, some of the best we've seen for Red Bulls. Obviously, Luquinhos, Luis Morgan, new pieces this year. You go against them in training every day. Who's the most difficult for you to deal with?
Yeah, I think Luquinhas has done excellent when he's on the field. I think, as you've seen with his stats, I think his dribbling is unlike anyone I've kind of come across, and he's kind of like a magician out there. So it's great watching him kind of go against other guys for a change.
So this is obviously a big moment. As you said, a semifinal, very, very rare. What would it mean for you as a local, as a Long Island guy, to bring the first ever cup home for New York Red Bulls?
Yeah, I grew up watching the New York Red Bulls. I came to a couple games when I was younger, so it's a dream come true playing here. But obviously, I want to bring the hardware home, bring the first Open Cup to Red Bulls, and I think that's a lot of our goals here. A lot of us have that same goal here for the Red Bulls, and I think it'll mean great things for the fans and for this club. So it's awesome, but it starts tonight with the semifinal.
I assume growing up going to those games, Dylan, your brother who plays now, was with you. What's it like to play on the same professional team as him?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's great for family and friends. They don't have to go to different games to watch us. They can two birds one stone, and they love it, and it's great for us. We have a great connection. I think we'll only continue to improve here. He's done well here.
He's been awesome. It's been awesome to watch him settle in. I've covered him all the way back since his Georgetown days. Really excited to see him on the field with you. I brought up Gerhard Struber. He's obviously a central piece of this team. Do you do a decent Gerhard Struber imitation?
No, I don't, but I know some other guys do. So you're gonna have to ask down the road a couple of other guys to get their impersonation.
Give me the rundown. Who does the best? Come on, put him out there.
I don't want to expose anybody in the locker room. You know, I don't. I like to keep a tight group.
Let's make a deal. When you're celebrating U.S. Open Cup final on the field, and I ask you, then you'll tell me, right? After
yes,
a cup.
Sir. Yeah, you got it. That sounds like a deal.
Everyone out there, you heard that. Lock it in. The potential to win U.S. Open Cup down the road, but tonight it is the semifinals, 7 p.m. Eastern time at Exploria Stadium on ESPN Plus as well for everyone streaming at home. Sean, appreciate you taking the time to come join me. From a Long Island boy to a Long Island boy, good luck tonight, and hopefully we'll have you again on soon to preview a final. The opportunity on the line, if they win and Sacramento wins, they host the U.S. Open Cup final for the first time ever. If not, they could be heading to Kansas City for the second time for a U.S. Open Cup final. And on the other side of the bracket, to figure out who we will see, let's go out to Sacramento to Tyler Terrans, waking up early for us on the ground to help us preview this one. You're on the ground. I know you were at training yesterday for Sacramento. Give me an idea of the vibe of sort of what you're feeling out of these two teams.
So it's really interesting, these two teams. I mean, it's two improbable stories, but for very different reasons. I mean, being at training yesterday, talking to Todd Donovan, the former MLS great, U.S. Open Cup winner and GM of this Sacramento group who put them together this year. There's just a real solid energy about this team right now, and there's a ton of belief, and this is a good Sacramento Republic team. Anybody who's watched their games against both San Jose and LA, this wasn't a fluke. This wasn't, smash and grab, sit in for 90 minutes, and get some sort of fluke goal. This is a very, very well organized and well coached team. And Mark Briggs has proven time and again in his stops throughout USL Championship that he's capable of being one of the better coaches in the country, regardless of division, once he gets to this point. So as far as Sacramento are concerned, it's very light. It's a good mood. The boys, had a pretty light training session yesterday. We were kicked out once the tactical stuff started. And then for Sporting Kansas City, we had a conversation with Peter Vermees, and it's no secret that they've been struggling mightily in the league. But as far as the cup is concerned, this is an organization that has cup magic in their blood. You think like Real Madrid and their sort of their marriage with Champions League. I sort of liken it to Sporting Kansas City in the U.S. Open Cup, 4-time winners trying to become the first ever MLS team to win 5. And they're just taking it game by game. I think some reinforcements in Eric Tommy and Will Agata have given them sort of new blood and new player bump, if you will. But they're very excited about this opportunity. And, they have to go on the road now against the second division team and prove that they're worthy of a trophy and getting to a final. And that's exactly what the U.S. Open Cup is all about.
When you look at this Sacramento team, as you said, deserving to be here, and also a team that it feels like is set up very well to play their style against Sporting KC. What did they talk about in terms of the keys to the game tonight?
So you're spot on. I think that, Sacramento is not going to really break you down in a low block. They don't have that capability. And it's not to say that they don't have good players. When you're looking in the middle of the park and you're thinking about Rodrigo Lopez, you're thinking about Matt LaGrassa, Zico Lewis, whoever might be playing in the middle of the park. They have quality, but they want to get out in transition. They want to make life difficult for you. And their back three are incredibly tight and cohesive. When you're thinking about Connor Donovan, Casey, Desmond, or maybe Duke Lacroix, who, depending on who's going to be playing, tonight. But when you're thinking about Sacramento and what they're going to be trying to, stifle as far as Sporting Kansas City are concerned, the biggest concern is Johnny Russell.
Yeah.
He's been the guy that's gotten Sporting over the line time and time again. and he's a guy who can change a game, and it's a level of talent that you just do not see at the USL Championship level. Now they've already dealt with the likes of San Jose, they've dealt with the likes of LA Galaxy on the road, but Johnny Russell's a different animal. He's the type of guy that it doesn't matter if you double team him, triple team him, he's going to find a way. So trying to deal with him, Daniel Shallowy, and then, depending on what sort of role Eric Tommy and Will Agata are going to play, we saw Tommy and he has a lot of quality, and Will Agata came on for 6 minutes over the weekend against LAFC. What is that going to look like from a minute standpoint for Peter Vermees? We don't know. But I think that Mark Briggs and company defensively feel very good about that. But for them, it's about capitalizing on chances, because they're one of the worst attacking teams in the USL Championship and league play. They've just gotten a couple of really good bounces, and they found themselves in good positions to score and capitalized in cup play. They're going to have to find a way to beat Sporting, and Sporting have given up some soft goals, and those are Peter Vermees' words, not mine. So it's going to be very interesting to see who's going to blink first in that department.
I think we're both smart enough not to say that until Peter Vermees says it first.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're in trouble for a while. Let's talk about the Sporting KC attack. You mentioned Agata a couple of times. The struggles for Kyrie Shelton at center forward. He's tried a few different pieces. What do you expect to see along that front, let's say, four here tonight?
Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking about the way that Sporting rolled out against LAFC and the way that Sacramento rolled out against Phoenix Rising over the weekend, two very different approaches. Sacramento rotated 10 different players. They had a couple of teenagers running around, and Mark Briggs basically just said, we're going for this on Wednesday. Fine, great. Coaches, to each his own. Peter Vermees was a little bit different. They welcomed LAFC. Gareth Bale gets his first start, and in front of a packed house, he decides to go with a pretty standard lineup for the most part. Definitely a couple of guys here and there that you would expect to be in a starting 11. But Johnny Russell played 90 minutes. He's obviously going to be in the mix. I think that, Daniel Shallowy is going to start if you're gonna ask me to put money on it. And then as far as Will Agata, he's coming over from the Israeli Premier League, and as far as match fitness is concerned, I don't know if he's ready to start. But as we know, Peter Vermees likes to have a couple of cards up his sleeve to be able to play late on in the game. We saw that against FC Dallas in the first round of the Open Cup for Sporting Kansas City, where he had to make 3 changes at the 60th minute mark to come from behind in a 2-0 game. So as far as the front line is concerned, I would maybe take a guess to say that Kyrie Shelton is probably going to start again. And that's just going to be the front three. And then in the middle of the field, Eric Tommy was talking about the heat and everything that he was dealing with in Kansas City. He said he's never experienced anything like that before in Germany, and rightfully so. And Sacramento, it's hot here. It's probably going to cool off a little bit. It's 95, 96 during the day, but it's a dry heat. It's a little bit different than Kansas City. So I'm curious to see if Tommy's going to get the start. And, keep in mind, David, that we Peter Vermees was talking to us about the fact that Tommy can play multiple positions. So, maybe it's a situation where he starts out on the wing and then maybe moves into the middle of the field, or he starts out on the bench and then comes on as a winger. But he does have the capability to play in a couple of different spots. But if you had to ask me right now, I think that it's probably going to be Sheldon, Shallowy, and Johnny Russell up top.
Yeah, I'm curious to see as Tommy's time goes along if we start to see Shallowy as a false nine in moments, whether it's just until Pulido comes back, or if it's an idea that maybe that's a position for him. Most of his goals come heading towards goal, but he is comfortable around the box. That's where he does his most damage. And I don't think it's ridiculous if you have the situation you have this year, which is your DP center forwards out for the season, to at least see it and see how it works. Although you are also trying to court Shallowy to come back as a free agent after this as well. So maybe that takes you off that. I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see. You mentioned for Sacramento at San Jose, beating San Jose at home and then going to the Galaxy. This game's a sellout, though. And I think of Sacramento, and I think for both of us who have covered the USL Championship very heavily, they were sort of the first team that started this new movement for the USL, where now you have New Mexico and Louisville and Phoenix that sell out games, and they're huge in their market. Sacramento started all that, but they've never had an Open Cup run. How big a moment do you think tonight is going to be, and sort of what are you feeling around the club, around the fan base, around the city?
It's pretty incredible, David, and it's we get to the stadium yesterday, and there's a state fair going on, basically a stone's throw away from the stadium. There's the Gravitron machine that looks like it's going to knock over the stand, on one side of the stadium. You see the water slide in the background. It's gimmicky. There's no other way to describe it, but it's perfectly U.S. Open Cup and perfectly second division soccer in America. And that's exactly what this is all about. And the entire community has just rallied around this team. I mean, we had like 5 or 6 different media requests from all the news outlets in Sacramento. Myself and Devin Kerr and Jordan Angeli, when we basically had to divide and conquer because there was so much interest around this team. And when you're also thinking about how close Sacramento was to potentially getting one of those expansion bids in Major League Soccer, that was a huge thing. And there are rumors that that's starting to maybe come back out onto the table, and that perhaps there's going to be some new investors that are going to come to the game tonight and maybe just see what this would look like with an MLS team in town. But this has been sold out for 2 weeks. I'm not going to say that they oversold some tickets, but let's just say it's going to be standing room only. And it's just, it's an incredible energy and atmosphere around this group. At any time that there's a run from a lower division team, you think back to 2019, the last time the tournament was played, you had both New Mexico United and St. Louis FC in the quarterfinals against Atlanta United and Minnesota United. They both bowed out. But, when you're thinking about US Open Cup, you want these lower division teams to make a run, just from a pure fan standpoint. And everybody loves an underdog. And Sacramento are seemingly the perfect underdog because they basically have an entire team of players who are playing on the squad for the first season. When you look at how cohesive they are and the work that Mark Briggs has done with this team, it makes zero sense as to why they're so sound as a collective, right? They have a lot of good individual talent, and they're all on the team for the first time, more or less, with the exception of maybe some guys like Rodrigo Lopez. But they've all come together and band together around this idea that they truly believe that they can beat any MLS team on any given night, and they've proven that, especially on the road at this point. And now welcoming Sporting Kansas City, they're licking their chops at an opportunity against a team that they know has struggled. But the community and everybody, there's signs all up around the hotel. This is, one of the only shows in town outside of the Kings. And, by all accounts, I asked if any of the Sacramento Kings were going to be at the game. Apparently everybody leaves Sacramento during the summer anyway, once the season's over, because, and I quote by a number of people in Sacramento, there's not a ton to do here. So this is the only show in town right now, and it's a pretty darn good one. And I'm very excited for the game tonight.
I think we are all as well. 10:30 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN Plus, following the Orlando Red Bull game at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN Plus. A little buffer just in case, extra time, penalties. I know it's a dry heat, but I don't wish that on anyone over the course of tonight. It's going to be a wild set of games. If last night is any indication, with some big cup games, we are in for a treat.